Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have the privilege of having our good friend and office neighbor, Ryan Sargent, on our call today. So we're excited to have him. He's one of our office mates and goes to lunch with us every once in a while. Actually, we invite him a lot, but he's only taken us up on it like once. But Ryan's a stud. He's an attorney. And I'm excited to kind of just dig in deep about what you do and just some of the questions that we kind of talked about at lunch the other day, along with just some of the tips and things that you want to talk about. So I'm excited to have you on today, Ryan. Thank you for being on with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyson. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I know it's been a long time coming. So
It has, right? So, but cool. So Ryan, I guess if you don't mind, why don't you just tell us a little bit about a little bit more about you, just so our audience kind of knows your background with school and becoming an attorney and how that all looks and what you emphasize in. Just give us a little bit of background about what you do.
yeah, so I got my undergrad in business administration, and then, when I was finishing up, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and so I decided, I'll go get a law degree instead of a master's in business. Maybe that'll set me apart when I get into the business world. So I ended up going to Thomas Jefferson School of Law down in San Diego, took the bar exam, passed, and then decided I wanted to practice as an attorney. At the time, I was living in Oceanside and didn't have a job after I took the bar exam, so I just would every night print out a bunch of resumes and show up at people's offices looking for work, and eventually I found a spot. So I worked there for about two and a half years doing personal injury, which is what I focus on now. So it was just a good spot to land and learned a lot in those first couple of years. Tried some cases, did a bunch of litigation, and at heart I was always an entrepreneur, and I knew I wanted to run my own business and start my own firm. So after about 2.5 years, I jumped ship and had a new baby on the way and got a cell phone and a laptop and started working out of my house. And that
Dang.
was the beginning. That was about a little over 10 years ago. So
So when
our focus.
when you got
Go
into
ahead.
injury though, or when with your first firm that you were working with, was that in the injury space?
Yeah, it was all plaintiffs' personal injury, and most people see like TV commercials, and so they kind of have an idea like, hey, if someone's hurt, they can get money. So what my focus was then and still is now is helping people that are hurt. Most of our cases are car accidents, motorcycle accidents, and so what we're doing is helping people get into medical treatment, navigating the insurance process, dealing with ultimately the insurance companies, and at the end of the case, making sure they're getting compensated for their medical bills, lost wages, and just the pain and suffering that they go through. So, but yeah, from the get go, I just kind of landed at a personal injury firm because it was the first job I got, and
Yeah,
ended up liking it. And it's very people based. Most of our clients have never talked to an attorney before. They never had to call a law firm, and so we're really serving our communities. And I grew up in North County and grew up in Fallbrook, and so I've spent a ton of time out in Temecula, Marietta, and North County, San Diego, and so it's provided me an ability to have a business, but also help the people in my community around me. So
totally. Um, and so dang, that's pretty quick jump, wouldn't you say? So a couple years doing your own thing. Did you always kind of see yourself as an entrepreneur?
yeah, it's funny. I've looking back, I'm in some mastermind groups with other attorneys that do the same stuff, and when you get together with law firm owners, at the end of the day, part of it's they're good attorneys and they're really good at what they do, but they also enjoy the business side of it. But even as a kid, I'd be selling burned CDs and making hacky sacks in fourth grade and selling those. So I've always, looking back, I've always had that kind of background where, I can figure out how to, whether it's build something and sell it or, so I've always kind of had that in my DNA. So this kind of allows me to do both sides.
Dude, I love that because I think ever since we first met you, which I guess, dang, that's probably been a few years ago now, is
Yeah.
like I could always tell you had this knack for marketing and just being an entrepreneur. I feel like entrepreneurs typically, they're just always striving to do better and explore different ways that they can improve their business. And that's something I've noticed about you is you're always looking for different ways to I guess get your name out there and let people know, what you do and so forth, whether it be online marketing, which I think I'm sure it seems like a lot of your emphasis is online marketing, and I'm sure many other sources. But I've always respected that because I could always tell that you're always pivoting and looking for different ways to get yourself out there, which is just like a realtor, right? Like I think we've talked about that in the past. It's like as realtors, you you have to really like set yourself apart from all of the other realtors because there's so many realtors out there. And so really the only way to do that is if you're aggressive and always looking for new ways and other ways to just really get your brand out there and let people know who you are. Because the more times they see you, the more likely they are to work with you and so forth. Um, but dang, that's cool. A couple of things that I really want to hit hard today is just like some of the things that would be helpful that you've shared with us. Things, little tips that I think is good for really all of us. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some misconceptions, and then also you had some tips with regards to insurance, and I think it was like uninsured. What was it?
Yeah.
Uninsured. If someone's uninsured.
Uninsured or underinsured motorists. Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah, I'd love to kind of go through some of that stuff. And I know a lot of the audience is probably in the real estate market or following you. And it's interesting because, we were talking, you're discussing marketing and our businesses, it's a service business. And at the end of the day, they're very similar, right? Is getting the work is very difficult and you want to get your name out there, get your brand out there. But at the end of the day, it's once you have those clients, you got to do a great job servicing them and providing that service that you promised them. And so that's really where those our two worlds collide, right? Is that you need to get the work, and then once you get the work, you need to do a great job and take care of those people. And over time, it just kind of snowballs to where a lot of my business is referral based, where it's prior clients and friends, people calling me. I get texts and calls every day asking for legal advice. It's not always something that's my expertise, but I can always link them up with someone. So it's just really helping people and doing a great job with the clients that you do have, and also trying to keep things moving in marketing. And the internet is now, 20 years ago, if you wanted a realtor, you'd ask your neighbor, you'd ask a friend. Well, that still happens, except they go to your website, they go to your Instagram, and so it's a verification of the things that people are saying about you, but online. So that's kind of been our focus with, how we get clients, and I know that's something that you guys have done over there as well. So that's kind of, it's an interesting, like when we talk, how similar our businesses are. It's just the service that we provide is different.
Totally right, exactly. And on top, like I feel like that's really the long-term focus, right? Like if you have the ability to really focus on the needs of each and every client, you get that snowball effect where you continue to get those referrals and those people that think of Ryan, right? Like in those situations when someone has a referral to give out, of course they're going to be thinking of you. And I think that's obviously extremely key, obviously, within my business and yours, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's very similar. So, but yeah, yeah, we were going to kind of jump into some of the common misconceptions. So I'm a personal injury attorney. Um, Most of the time we're fighting big insurance companies, and so a lot of times people want to, I hang out with friends, I get all the lawyer jokes. And in the legal industry, when you're in law school, people want to work for the district attorney's office. Like nobody wants to be a personal injury lawyer, but it turns out most personal injury lawyers are some of the best attorneys around. Not only are they helping an unserved population, but it's something where those people really need the help, and there's just really good attorneys, and there's a lot of risk involved, and there's a pretty big barrier to entry to get the experience and also the capital to be able to afford to hire experts to represent, when you get into court, to hire the experts that have to testify. There's a lot of costs that we pay for our clients so that they're able to pursue a case. So the most attorneys, they charge an hourly rate, right? So if you have a real estate transaction, you're going to call a real estate attorney and he's going to say, hey, pay me $350 an hour, however much time it takes. That's how much it's going to cost. Ours, it's called a contingency fee. So we get paid a percentage of whatever we recover for our clients. And so it allows them to hire my firm or hire a personal injury attorney to help them.
Looks like Ryan, you still there?
Tyson, you there?
Oh shoot, I can hear you. Yeah, was that
Can you
me or
see?
you?
I think it's you.
Dang.
Can you
Okay,
see
let's
me?
see. Yeah, I can see you fine now. It
Okay.
froze up. I wasn't sure if that was you or me.
No, is it moving now?
It's moving again.
Okay, cool. Where did it cut out off, Tyson?
Dang, I know. I don't know if that was me or not, but where were you? Um, you probably cut out about 20 seconds ago.
Okay. But yeah, so I guess kind of getting into those like misconceptions is, personal injury lawyers, we have people that are faking injuries and, slipping and falling and pretending they're hurt when they're not. It's just not how it is. Our clients are legitimately injured, and, they're good people. They're your neighbors. They're the people that work in the office next to you. And so I think that's something that, um, people don't understand that, right? It's pretty darn hard to fake a personal injury case to try to get paid. So that's one of those things that, and I think that's, the insurance companies have done a great job in putting stuff out into the public propaganda about how injury claims are looked down upon, right? That's created by the insurance industry. And so that's why people are nervous to call us at first. Sometimes they don't want people to know that they have a claim, right? There's this kind of um, knock on it that people are concerned about. So that's kind of one of the first hurdles to overstep. But yeah, one thing that I'd really like to talk about that I think would really add a lot of value to anyone that drives a car or has a family member that drives a car is, when we get cases, a lot of times we're stuck with what the policy limits are. And so, we're on our Instagram and on our Facebook, right now this week we're doing some stuff about auto insurance and what types of coverages to get. And that's one thing that I'm always telling my friends, family, and trying to educate people on. You have to get good insurance to cover yourself, especially in California. I think they estimate that like 1 in 4 drivers don't have any insurance. And so what most people do is they call their broker, they go online, they say, hey, I want full coverage, but I want the cheapest rate, right? And that's what they get. They don't even understand what they're buying. And then what happens a lot is, if you get hurt in an accident and you have quote unquote full coverage, well, that just means you have each type of coverage, but you might have the minimum limits. And to make that simplified, in California specifically, um, the minimum bodily injury liability limits are 15,000. What that means is if I hit someone in my car and they get hurt, the those minimum limits of 15,000, that's actually the maximum my insurance company will pay someone. So Tyson, let's say I run into you on the freeway and you break your leg and you can't work for 2 months, right? I've seen your top producer on there, so I know you're going to lose more than $15,000 over the next 2 months, right? You run a business, you're going to have medical bills, and if you don't have your own underinsured motorist coverage, that's all you're going to get from the insurance company is that $15,000. And by the time you have to hire an attorney, you got to pay your medical bills back. You're going to be left with, not a whole lot out of that. And so, one thing I'm really big on is just educating people on, look, you need to buy underinsured and uninsured motorists. So it's really inexpensive and it's really easy to get. Um, years ago I had I think I had like $250,000 in coverage, and I called my agent and I said, "Hey, I want to get more. What's the maximum amount of underinsured motorist coverage I can get?" And he said it's $500,000. So I'm doubling my coverage, right? And over a 6-month premium, right? It cost me $12. So
Are you
$2 a month.
serious? That's
So
it?
yeah, $2 a month. I got double the coverage. And how that would come into play is the same situation I told you. If someone hits me and they don't have enough coverage, well, I'm good because I can go to my insurance company and they step into the shoes of that at-fault party. So that's like the number one thing I tell people, like, look, I hope you never have to call me. Hopefully never in an accident, but do yourself a favor, buy underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage. It's not going to cost you that much.
Dang,
And
that's a good tip. And especially
and
only $12 or whatever. Is that
yeah,
is that the most typical type of call you get? Is about auto injuries? Like,
yeah, I'd say 80% of our cases are some sort of vehicle accident. So car accidents, motorcycle accidents. Um, and what most people don't even realize is like your auto insurance will cover you even if you're not in your car. So if you're riding your skateboard down the street and you get blasted by a car, if you're out in the desert and a dune buggy hits you and you have underinsured motorist coverage, and they don't have enough coverage or don't have any, then your
that
insurance
would
company
still
will step
cover
in and
you?
cover you.
Wow. Dang,
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yes.
wow. And what are some of these? So auto's a popular one. I think I had mentioned to you that so in a if we had a case recently in a home, what would be, I guess, the second most common thing that might happen? That is it in the workplace? Is it at a home? Is it a property that a tenant is living in? What would you say is another typical situation where people are calling you about injuries?
Yeah, so we have a outside of like auto accidents and we do a lot of wrongful deaths. Wrongful death is a legal term for the type of case that's kind of secondary. So you could have a car accident where someone dies, right? That'd be a wrongful death case, even though it stems from an auto accident.
Yeah,
You could get a construction accident where maybe they got hurt on the job, and that could also be a wrongful death. So it's kind of like a subset. But I think the other few the next most common call are really going to be premises liability cases. So kind of like that case we were talking about last week where someone got hurt at a home, they were a tenant, they were alleging that, hey, there was a dangerous condition on this property, I
yeah,
didn't know about it, you guys knew about it, and you didn't do anything to fix it. And so that's where kind of those same things come into play. If you own a home or you have a rental property, you really want to make sure you dig in on those policies that you have to protect yourself. Um, because at the end of the day, my clients, they're not just looking to sue someone to get rich. And in fact, the most severe injured people, they get a lot of money, but every single one of them they get their check and they say, hey, I wish that never happened.
yeah,
And so, if you own properties and you're renting them out, you really want to make sure that you're protected in those types of situations. You can require renters insurance for your tenants, but you also want to make sure you have insurance too, because if someone gets hurt at your property and they hire me, I don't care who's there. Like, you're all going to get brought into the case,
yeah,
right? And so you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
make sure you're protected. So that's something that's important too, especially in the real estate industry. A lot of people, you go through those contracts and you don't look at the fine print that's in there. Like, hey, how do I protect myself if something happened? Like if you had a pool and someone drowned, right? Stuff like that, hopefully it never pops up, but these things happen and they happen a lot. And so it's something that, from an investor's perspective, or even just a homeowner, or if you're just renting an apartment, you want to make sure you're protected from that stuff. We get a lot of, little kids that get attacked by dogs, and, so we're dealing with renters policies and landlords that knew the dogs were there. So that's another type of case that we take where we're dealing with, landlords, tenants, insurance companies, property managers. Um, and so it's really something that, you know, you can protect yourself from it, but you got to know what you're looking for. So
Interesting. Okay, so in terms of, like, of course, we always want to try to bring some sort of value here. And I think that's a great one. And I still need to do that, even though you told me I need to do that. I haven't looked into it yet, but I know I need to. So, underinsured or uninsured, increasing that coverage is one. Are there any others that jump out at you in terms of insurance coverage that
yeah,
we should be
yeah,
looking into?
yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of us have health insurance, and there's a type of coverage on your auto insurance and on your properties. It's called medical payments coverage. And what medical payments coverage does is, depending on what your limits are, it'll help you pay for medical expenses, even if you have health insurance. So, you know, a lot of people have different deductibles or out-of-pocket maximums. And so let's say, Tyson, you come to my house and you fall. I'm dunking over you and you fall and get hurt on my basketball court, right? Something that's likely to happen. Um, but I have medical payments coverage that'll, because you got hurt on my property. Let's say you have a $2,000 ambulance bill and your insurance only covers half. Well, you're $1,000 out of pocket. That medical payments coverage will kick in. The cool part about medical payments coverage is that you could also be at fault for an accident. So let's say you rear end someone on the freeway. You know, you're too close and you just can't stop in time. You got same thing. You got to go to the ER and get checked out, and you have all these big copays, or you need to get something that's not covered by your insurance, your health insurance. You could submit those bills to your auto insurance and they'll pay for them.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing as underinsured and uninsured motorists. It's not super expensive, but it's just one of those little things, especially with how a lot of people buy their insurances. They just log in and they go on the app and they kind of tinker around like, oh, I don't think I need that much. It causes it to go up by $20 a month, but they don't even know what they're clicking on and off.
yeah.
And so those are two things that you really want to look at and make sure you get as much as you can afford. And that's usually what I tell people. I say, hey, here's a threshold of what I would recommend. If you can afford more, get it. Hopefully you never need it, but you know, it's something that's important in these situations that come up quite a bit.
For sure. Better safe than sorry, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
in those moments when you really need it where you're going to really regret it, because I feel like one of these situations could really cause your life to change in a moment, right? Like, if
yeah,
you're not properly insured. And I've always been one of those types where I'm like a little leery about insurance, just because, I'm just not a fan. Because I feel like a lot of times, especially with health insurance, like, I just put out so much money and it's like I get very little in return. But it's in that moment when, I find out I have some sort of disease or something, that in that moment, of course, I'm going to be like so grateful that I have it. But until then, it's like one of those things where it's like, can't stand insurance, and I can't stand the fact that I have to get
yeah,
insurance and I have to have all these different coverages. But at the end of the day, I think it brings peace of mind. It's going to obviously cover you in one of those horrible situations and not impact you the same way that it would if you didn't have those coverages, right?
yeah, yeah. It's super important. I got a little story. We had a client, it's about 18 months ago. She got hit right by our office, right off the 15, just before getting to Marietta. And postal worker, she couldn't work for a long time. She had to get an emergency neck surgery, and the car that hit her didn't have any insurance. And she called me. I met with her at her house. Super nice family. And she had just, like, 3 days before the accident, she had had the same coverage for 20 years. And for whatever reason, she was like, "Hey, I have liability coverage." She owned her house. She had $500,000 in liability. She's like, "Yeah, I got good coverage. I got like half a million." But what she did is she switched her underinsured and uninsured from 500 to 50,000. Okay. It was the same thing. It was like less than a $30 change in her premium, right?
Yeah.
Well, once we got the case, there was no insurance. That case, her injuries were so severe, I would have gotten 500 grand in a week, instead we got 50 grand, right? It cost her $450,000. And so I see that stuff happening, and it's disappointing because it limits my ability to help clients recover and help them get through these situations. But yeah, better safe than sorry. If there's anyone out there that is, if you have questions about like, hey, am I covered? Reach out to me on Facebook, send me a DM, and I'll go through your deck page. I can send you a sample of, mine, what I have, and so you can kind of look at it and know what to look for. So I do that all the time with people, and just make sure that they're protected, especially if you've got kids and you're working and stuff. So it's super, super important. So
Love it. Okay. And Thomas Powell, he mentioned, so State Farm and AAA commonly put lower uninsured motorist coverage at the liability coverage on their auto policies. If you have those companies, check your declaration page. Okay, interesting. So, and he works in the insurance field, so I'm sure that's good info to know. So obviously we need to check that. Any other takeaways that you think our audience would appreciate?
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people on here, they own their own businesses, they're selling real estate, they're doing good things. And I think one of the things I've learned is that it's a grind, right? You're not going to be successful overnight. It's taken me a decade from working on my cell phone on a laptop, and now I have multiple offices. I have about 17 people on staff, and it's just something where if you just are honest and treat people fairly and do the right thing and work hard over time, like, you're going to be successful. And you just got to keep working at it. And I know that's something that we've kind of talked about, that it's patience, right? It takes a long time. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, regardless of what you're doing. So just encourage everyone out there to keep grinding. I know we've all had a long year and we're kind of coming out of it. And I think everyone's excited to get back to, whatever is our new normal is. So.
Totally. No, and I love that. And I think that's like probably the thing I probably talk about the most is just like how important it is to really, from day one, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a new business or you want to improve a relationship or a new relationship, like if you have that long-term vision and just always focus on doing better, being better, like naturally your business will get better, right? If you have a vision of like, hey, I want things to be better in 1 year, I want it to be even better in 5 years and 10 years and so on and so forth. If we have that mindset and mentality, like we have the potential of so much, right? And the reality is, as we continue to pivot, adjust, and improve ourselves and our businesses and processes and systems, we're going to be able to impact more and more people. And at the same time, be able to create and build amazing businesses. And I think that's one of the things that I try to instill within the agents that work with me is like, guys, if you want something, it's extremely simple. You put in the work.
Yep.
And the results will follow. You have to believe it, but you have to be consistent. Sometimes you don't see those results after months, if not even sometimes years, but those results will come. Like I think even my first couple years in real estate, it's like I did like 6 transactions my first year, and I think my second year I did 8. Like I was struggling to survive, right? But in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep pounding each and every day, working 8 to 6, whatever, however many hours I was working. And eventually it started paying off to where I like started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like it took like 10 years to finally realize like it's really simple. Put in the work, the results follow. It's that simple, right? But dang, cool. Ryan, thank you so much for hanging out with us and sharing this knowledge. Anyone that has any questions for Ryan, please reach out to him. We'll share his information in our Facebook post and Instagram posts. Feel free to reach out. I'm sure we'll have all of your contact info, Instagram, Facebook. So if you guys ever have any sort of need, please reach out to him. Great guy. We love him. We appreciate him. Ryan, thank you so much for being on with us.
Thanks, Tyson. Thanks for having me. And just for anyone that reaches out, like I'm not charging anyone per hour. Like if you're a friend of Tyson's, you're a friend of mine. So if anything you need help out, just reach out and we'll try to take care of you.
You're the man. All right. Awesome, Ryan. Everyone, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you soon. Bye.